Hello, my incredible friends. Today, I have something truly special to share with you. Listen closely, because this story has the power to transform the way you think, speak, and feel about the English language. If you find this helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel Speak English Fluently. By the way, the story I'm about to tell revolves around a person who is widely regarded as one of the greatest psychologists the world has ever known. He had an unparalleled understanding of the human heart. You've likely heard of Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, and Othello. These aren't just stories. They are reflections of life itself. They explore love, power, betrayal, ambition, and all the emotions that make us human. The person behind these works captured the essence of humanity in his words. His influence is so profound that the English language itself would not be the same without him. Many of the words, phrases, and ideas we use today originated from his brilliant mind. But how did he become William Shakespeare, the greatest writer in history? He wasn't born into wealth or privilege. He didn't attend a prestigious university. Yet, he rose to become the most celebrated name in literature. So, if you're learning English today, if you struggle with words, or if you wonder how to express yourself more effectively, this story is for you. Shakespeare started as an ordinary boy, just like anyone else. His journey is one of struggle, passion, and unstoppable creativity. So, sit back, listen carefully, and enjoy. This will not only improve your English listening skills, but also fill you with inspiration. It was a cold April day in 1564, in the small English town of Stratford upon Avon. A baby boy was born to John and Mary Shakespeare. They held him close, unaware that their son would one day change the world. His name was William Shakespeare. Stratford upon Avon was a quiet town with narrow streets, wooden houses, and a gentle river flowing through it. Life was simple, with most people working as farmers, traders, or craftsmen. William's father, John Shakespeare, was a glovemaker, a hard-working man respected in the community. His mother, Mary Arden, came from a wealthy farming family. She was kind, strong, and deeply loving. William was the third of 8 children, and their home was always filled with laughter and chatter. But William was different. He was curious, observant, and deeply attuned to the world around him. He listened to how people spoke, how they laughed, and how they cried. Though he didn't know it yet, this curiosity would one day make him the greatest playwright of all time. In those days, there were no televisions, phones, or internet. People entertained themselves with stories. Traveling actors would visit the town and perform plays in the streets. Young William would watch in awe, his imagination ignited by these performances. He loved listening to old legends, folk tales, and heroic stories from history. Each tale strengthened his creativity. At the age of 7, William started school. It was a simple building with wooden benches and a strict teacher. There he studied Latin, history, poetry, and literature. Latin, the language of scholars, became a tool that would later shape his writing. He read the great stories of ancient Rome and Greece, discovering writers like Ovid, Plutarch, and Virgil. Their words stayed with him, inspiring his future works. But William wasn't just a bookworm. He loved nature. He would wander through green fields, watch the river, and listen to the songs of birds. He played with his friends, ran through the streets, and enjoyed life like any other boy. Yet, there was something inside him, a hunger for words, stories, and meaning. Just when life seemed normal, trouble struck. William's father, once a respected businessman, began facing financial difficulties. He had borrowed money for his business, but things weren't going well. The family struggled, and there were days when they could barely afford food. William saw the stress in his father's eyes and the worry in his mother's voice. He learned that life is full of ups and downs, a theme he would later explore in his plays. Even as a child, William had a way with words. He would create little poems and rhymes, act out roles, and entertain his friends with stories. But no one in Stratford-upon-Avon could have guessed that this young boy would one day write the most famous plays in the world. For now, he was just William, a boy with big dreams. And those dreams were about to take him far. By the time William turned 18, he was no longer a boy, but a young man. Like many young men, he fell in love. Her name was Anne Hathaway, a beautiful, intelligent, and independent woman. But their love story was unusual. Anne was 26, 8 years older than William. In those days, it was uncommon for a younger man to marry an older woman, but love knows no rules. However, something unexpected happened. Anne became pregnant before they were married. In the strict society of the time, this was a scandal. To avoid shame, William and Anne married quickly in November 1582. At just 18, William Shakespeare was a husband and soon after, a father. 6 months later, Anne gave birth to their first child, a daughter named Susanna. 2 years later, twins followed, Hamnet and Judith. Life was moving fast, but there was a problem. How would William support his family? His father's business was still struggling, and William had no stable job. He knew he had to find a way to make money, but what could he do? He had no interest in becoming a glove maker like his father. He had no land, no title, and no fortune. But he had words. He had stories. And he had an unstoppable desire to create. The years between 1585 and 1592 are often called Shakespeare's lost years because little is known about what he did during this time. Some say he became a school teacher, others believe he joined a traveling theater company, and some even suggest he got into legal trouble and had to leave Stratford. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain. By 1592, Shakespeare had arrived in London, ready to take on the world. London in the late 1500s was a city of energy, ambition, and opportunity. It was the heart of England's theater scene, filled with actors, writers, and poets, all competing for fame. Shakespeare arrived with no money, no connections, and no experience. But he had something far more powerful: talent, determination, and an unstoppable passion for storytelling. He began as an actor in small theater groups, studying how people spoke, moved, and expressed emotions. Soon, he started writing his own plays. At first, they were simple and entertaining, designed to make people laugh. But as time passed, he realized he could do more. He could write plays that made people think, feel, and question life itself. By 1592, Shakespeare was becoming well known in London's theater world, but not everyone admired him. A famous playwright named Robert Greene insulted him, calling him an upstart crow. But Shakespeare didn't let criticism stop him. Instead, he worked harder, wrote more plays, and gained the respect of both actors and audiences. Then, in 1593, disaster struck. A deadly plague swept through London, forcing theaters to close. Shakespeare found himself without work, but he didn't give up. Instead of writing plays, he turned to poetry. He wrote 2 famous long poems, Venus and Adonis, and The Rape of Lucrece, which brought him both wealth and fame. Even Queen Elizabeth I was impressed by his work. When theaters reopened in 1594, Shakespeare returned to what he loved most, writing and performing plays. He joined a famous acting company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men. His plays explored love and heartbreak, Romeo and Juliet, power and ambition, Macbeth, betrayal and revenge, Hamlet, and jealousy and madness, Othello. By the late 1590s, Shakespeare was one of the most famous playwrights in England. In 1599, Shakespeare and his company built their own theater, the Globe. It became the home of his greatest works, including Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, and Julius Caesar. These plays weren't just entertainment. They were powerful stories that made people think, feel, and question life itself. Shakespeare's success brought him immense wealth. By the early 1600s, he was one of the richest playwrights in England. He owned shares in the Globe Theatre, earned money from published works, and received royal support. He even bought a grand house in Stratford called New Place. But fame and fortune weren't enough for Shakespeare. He wanted to leave a lasting legacy. Between 1603 and 1611, he wrote some of his most profound plays, including King Lear, Macbeth, and The Tempest. These works explored themes of betrayal, ambition, and forgiveness, reflecting Shakespeare's own growth and experiences. By 1611, Shakespeare had achieved everything he had ever dreamed of. He was famous, wealthy, and respected by kings and queens. But in 1613, he made a surprising decision. He retired. He returned to Stratford, where he spent his final years in peace, surrounded by family and nature. On April 23, 1616, at the age of 52, William Shakespeare passed away, but his words lived on. His plays continued to be performed, his books continued to be read, and his name continued to inspire. Today, over 400 years later, Shakespeare's legacy remains alive. His works are studied in schools, performed in theaters, and adapted into films and songs. His words have become a part of everyday speech, reminding us of the power of language and storytelling. So, my amazing friends, never stop chasing your dreams. Start today, work hard, and never give up. Who knows? Maybe one day your name will be remembered just like Shakespeare's. If this story inspired you, let me know in the comments below. What's your dream? Let's inspire each other. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon because we're on this journey of learning, growing, and becoming unstoppable together. Remember, your future is waiting for you. Go out there and make history. And always keep in mind, it is not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves. William Shakespeare. Perhaps you are the next great storyteller the world is waiting for. Stay inspired. Stay unstoppable. And I'll see you in the next video